Hello, my name is Pat Devine. I'm partner and co-founder of LTR Digital Group, and with me today is my partner and also co-founder, Dale Brosey.
Oh.
You know, you're going to be hearing our agency talk a lot about this thing called blockchain technology. And we thought it might be a good idea to actually kind of shoot this video so you could understand where we're coming from, and also to kind of explain the technology so you have a base understanding. And, you know, it might seem weird to you and to others why a digital agency is talking about blockchain technology, but hopefully by the end of this, you're going to have a better understanding. It is very prevalent in the digital space. And so we're not planning on making an expert in blockchain, but we do want to pique your curiosity a little bit and help give you that base understanding like I mentioned. So kind of with that, Dale, do you mind kind of sharing an overview as to what blockchain is all about and the technology?
Sure. Okay, so blockchain as a technology is, well, let's simplify it. The term that most people are probably familiar with or that they've heard about is Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And Bitcoin is a digital currency, but it's blockchain technology that makes that possible. It makes it possible for you to send a payment or send money from one end of the globe to the other end of the globe within minutes and at very, very low cost.
Without a bank.
Without a bank, absolutely. Totally peer-to-peer. And there are elements of this, staying with the idea of a currency, there are elements that make blockchain really a fascinating technology. But to understand those is to understand the difference between centralized and decentralized. So let's go back to that idea of using a bank to be able to send payments. That is the centralized part, is if I'm going to send you $10, I'm going to go through whatever process I'm going to use. Let's say write a check. I'm going to write a check. That check goes to my bank. My bank is probably going to notify your bank to deposit $10 into your account. A very long process, and there are centralized points along that path. In this case, could be two banks, or if we use the same bank, one bank. But the point is that it's the bank that maintains all the records. We might keep our own checkbooks, but the bank is a centralized source of data for all of its members. Whereas in a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, there is no bank, there is no middleman, there is no central point that maintains everybody's records. It's a distributed ledger. And you might hear that term a lot when you hear about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or blockchain. What do they mean by distributed? Well, there are tens of thousands of network participants that maintain a copy of the ledger. And it's a distributed ledger. And to understand a distributed ledger would be very similar to like Google Docs. This morning, you and I were working on a document. We didn't each have our own copy of it. We were able to make changes in that same document, but in a distributed way. So it's a distributed public ledger. Now, there's some other benefits to the blockchain in a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. One of those is that they refer to it as being immutable. Remember, I said you have tens of thousands of participants in the network, each maintaining a copy of this bank ledger. And if one participant of the network is hacked, say, for example, their computer is hacked and somebody manipulates their copy of the ledger, there's still several tens of thousands of other copies out there that when they present their version of the ledger, everybody else says, no, your copy doesn't match our copy, so it's not valid. And that brings to the idea of it's not hackable. And people say, well, yes, you can hack it. You can hack a participant, but you can't hack the blockchain. So there are a lot of benefits to how a distributed ledger technology and like the blockchain work. The things to remember, though, I think are most important is that it's decentralized and it operates peer-to-peer without a middleman in between.
So in this case, blockchain equals bank ledger, one.
Yep.
And two, it's kind of the crowd mentality to a certain extent that keeps it real and trustless, right?
Absolutely.
So,
it's called securing the network.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So with that, why do they call it blockchain?
Well, that's a great question. And it's a bit of a misnomer. And like Pat mentioned, we certainly, it's not our objective to make you an expert. So don't feel compelled that you have to understand what the blockchain is to its deepest core. But like, again, this is just the overview. So remember I mentioned the network participants.
Mm-hmm.
There are tens of thousands of them out there in the Bitcoin network and the Litecoin network and all these different cryptocurrencies. And we talked about a distributed ledger. So let's go back to the idea of a ledger and think of a book with multiple pages in it. And as all of these network participants process the transactions that are happening on their network, it's going in the ledger in a digital sense, but it's going in a ledger. Once we fill up one page of that ledger, that page needs to get shut down. Or think of like your banking, your checkbook. You take your balance over then to the next page. So think of a page of a ledger as being a block.
Okay.
All right.
Or one link within a chain.
Exactly.
Okay, there you go.
Right.
See?
So it's just, yeah.
Pretty quick.
He's a fast one. So yeah, now another term people might have heard are miners. If they heard about cryptocurrency, they hear about cryptocurrency mining. All right. That's kind of a weird term to use. A miner is simply a network participant that is running a very powerful computer to solve cryptographic equations in order to secure and close out that page of the ledger or that block.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of doing that, we're not going to get into the specifics of what goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of great information out there if you want to learn more about that. But just understand that these network participants are trying to solve a cryptographic algorithm. When somebody solves the equation that secures that page, that closes out that page of the ledger, they get rewarded. So because they get rewarded in Bitcoin, they call it mining Bitcoin.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where miners come in.
Well, it's pretty clear that blockchain is getting a lot of attention in the news. There's some very large companies that are making investments into it. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Why does everybody have an interest in this?
Wow, it's a huge race. Matter of fact, last night I was at an event. IBM was presenting and everything that they're doing in blockchain. And you're absolutely right. You can't really read business news today without reading something about blockchain. So there's no doubt that this is a massively disruptive technology. I was going to say distributed because distributed ledger. Yep. Disruptive technology that's probably going to touch every aspect of business. It's even going to impact our health records and personal life and what have you. Just recently, and based on when you watch this video, IBM was an early adopter of blockchain technology back in 2016. Back in 2016, they got involved. And again, I was at an event last night. They were talking about Walmart using blockchain to track produce from origin to shelf. Microsoft was an early adopter of it. Bank of America has filed at this point 43 different patents for blockchain technology locally here in the Minneapolis area. United Healthcare and Optum. NASA announced their project. They're going to do all sorts of things.
So generally speaking, why is healthcare involved with it? Is it because of the ability? Is it from a privacy standpoint? Is it an accuracy standpoint? What, generally speaking?
I think, so that's a great question. I don't pay much attention to what they're doing in healthcare, but I think it's portability. It's the portability of medical information from one practitioner. You move across the country, sending medical records and all that kind of stuff. Okay. The maintaining of it. So yeah.
So then, even like you mentioned, like in Walmart,
yep.
It really touches on supply chain management. Right?
Very much so.
In the supply chain management, where blockchain might come in is really the accuracy of, from dirt to shelf, and all those stops along
yep.
the way. It keeps it accurate. And then I would guess that it also can help expedite payment processes through that.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So those
definitely.
Types of things. Okay, but continue.
Yeah, no,
I'm trying to give some real world examples of where blockchain will fit in.
Yeah.
How it's going to be utilized.
Well, see, that's the crazy thing is that where we're at with this technology right now, everybody's just exploring where could we use the blockchain. When I read, and here not too long, that NASA was implementing blockchain to track space junk on the Ethereum blockchain. I mean, that's thinking outside of the box. And I think as a technology, we're just now beginning to explore what is possible with blockchain technology, to the point where 5 years from now, I think some of the projects that we'll see, we're not even imagining today.
So it's somewhat of a global race.
Yeah, it's very global. Matter of fact, the United States is kind of behind the 8 ball on this. I mean, South Korea, in South Korea, their patent office has already in 2017 over 1,200 individual blockchain patents in South Korea alone. And then we got IBM that's doing all sorts of Microsoft and Salesforce and Amazon, and everybody's into it.
Yeah, so there's no doubt that blockchain technology is going to be touching a wide variety of businesses and actually in really every aspect of business to a great extent, and even governments are exploring it, as you mentioned it. So, but let's kind of circle back a little bit to, you know, we're a digital marketing agency. So, what about marketing and advertising? Where does it fit from that perspective?
Yeah, well, you know, as you know, Pat, I mean, we as an agency, we've always been focused on emerging technology and try to be able to help our clients stay up to date on cutting edge things and things that they need to be aware of or should be aware of in the marketing space. But when it comes to digital marketing, there was a time when let's look at a very simple situation. You're a publisher of a blog or something, or newsletter or something like that. And
I've always got something to say.
Exactly. It's a golf blog or something like that, sports or something like that. And I'm
more than sports.
He's more than sports.
Go ahead.
But let's say you're a publisher of you publish content, and I'm an advertiser, and I want to advertise my product on your blog or whatever because you've built up a good readership and all that type of stuff. At one time, it was very, very easy to do that. I would simply contact you and say, "Hey, Pat, I want to buy ad space on your blog," and we would negotiate a rate. As a result, it wasn't even called AdTech at that point, but the ad buying ecosystem is extremely simple to negotiate. That's not the case anymore.
There's all these third-party aggregators involved, right?
Yeah. I should have brought the chart to show you. I didn't bring it in, but the new one just recently came out, and there's in the AdTech ecosystem or in the MarTech marketing technology ecosystem. With the last study that was just done, is that there are over 6,000 vendors within the MarTech ecosystem, marketing technology ecosystem, and each one with at least one marketing solution. So we're talking well over 6,000 solutions. Yep. It's very complicated, and as a result of that, many brands like Procter & Gamble and Unilever and what have you have started to recognize there's a huge lack of transparency in the digital ad spend world, or digital media, digital advertising. Huge lack of transparency, a lot of problem with ad fraud, false reporting. There's just so many ad dollars that get wasted.
I was just going to say, I think there's some very large brands that are actually going away from it. A lot for that reason is because there is a trust problem with it and fraud problem with it.
Yeah. Well, when you think again, we got over 6,000 vendors now in the marketing technology ecosystem, and they're all kind of saying, how do I get a piece of your marketing budget? Right? Because they need to make money too. So you got so many dollars in your marketing budget. Out of that, you got to pay these middlemen. The latter part of last year, Procter & Gamble, they made a decision. They actually pulled, I want to make sure we got the numbers right. They cut between 100 and 140 million from their digital ad budget in the early part of last year, and then followed that up with another $100 million later on, cut simply because the CEO of Procter & Gamble, addressing the digital marketing industry at a large conference, said, kind of calling out these third-party vendors, saying, you know, you guys need to fix this lack of transparency, and you know, we have bot fraud out there, you know, just all sorts of problems. And he said, You guys need to fix that, and we're voting with our dollars. The sad part was, as a result of pulling those hundreds of millions of dollars, the reach actually went up 10%.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting indeed.
Don't tell everybody that.
Yeah, right. It's just between us. But yeah, so that really helped them get focused on more efficient marketing. And then Unilever followed suit. So we're at the point now in marketing technology where, yeah, large brands with very, very large marketing budgets are saying, you know, we're tired with that. We need to fix, and it's a continuous ongoing problem. But that's where the application of a blockchain. So on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, there's also something called smart contracts. So they're digitally executed contracts that operate autonomously on the blockchain. And they could be used in that, like an ad buy or media buy situations that can't be manipulated, or fraud can't be introduced into that. So that's a very promising area of the blockchain, is the use of smart contracts.
Who do the smart contracts, who utilizes those? The end user, the advertiser, the publisher? We're kind of describe where that kind of fits in.
Okay. Yeah. So over the last few months, so you and I have been interested in cryptocurrencies and blockchains for a few years now, going back a few years. And then last year I started spending a lot more time in it, but it was only within these last few months that I started noticing that there are a lot of interesting projects showing up in the blockchain specific to digital media, digital advertising, and influencer marketing, and what have you. And within that, cryptocurrency and blockchain smart contracts can be used. Let's go back to that advertiser-publisher type of relationship. Using a blockchain, like an Ethereum blockchain and smart contracts, you and I can enter into a smart contract, and that smart contract, under that negotiation, is I'm going to buy 10,000 impressions from you, or video views, or something like that. The smart contract, using this blockchain, using the blockchain technology, would be able to monitor, and oftentimes there's elements of AI layered in there, what have you. It's not just a pure blockchain all by itself, but that's what keeps the record of those things. So once it's detected that your blog has delivered those 10,000 video impressions, that executes on the transaction, and the cryptocurrency that I have in my wallet, my cryptocurrency wallet, that triggers a smart contract to pay you whatever we've negotiated. So there's a number of interesting projects that have popped up that are applying these principles in order to be able to solve the problems that we're currently seeing in marketing technology and digital advertising. But there's often one player that's left out of the whole thing, and that's the end user.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that was going to be my next question, because when you talk about the impact on the end user,
yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So in that,
because there's really three players, right?
Exactly.
You know, so.
Exactly. Absolutely. So again, we've talked about the publisher and the advertiser, but there's that third player, and that's you and I as consumers of online. And really, in 2017, the realization of the value of our data online and your data is really coming to the forefront. People are understanding, well, wait a minute, my data has more value than maybe I thought. So in a situation of some of the projects that I've been following and that we're monitoring, they're trying to make it possible that that end user, or the consumer, the person watching the videos, the person reading the blogs, the people doing that, they can actually be rewarded using cryptocurrency again, or digital currency. They can be rewarded for their attention, and they can also be rewarded in various forms of agreement that I'm willing to give up a certain amount of my personal data in exchange for the currency. So they're trying to and sometimes the projects, they're very, I'm not going to say optimistic, but they see a better internet out there, one that's truly democratized for everybody, and make it the internet that we all hoped at one time.
Well, as consumers, you kind of hit the consumer side of things, you know, in our data. We want more control of it, especially we're in 2018,
yeah.
and there's a lot of things going on around our personal data. And I think the interesting part that you kind of touched on was that we could actually be compensated for it.
Yeah, it's going to take some learning, right? We're going to have to, people will have to learn how to use the internet differently than what we're used to today. But I also think that, you know, we went through Facebook hearings and all the stuff and then Facebook's just the beginning. We got all these social networks to think about, Google and what have you. But we've been kind of groomed as online consumers to say, I'm going to just, I know I have no choice but to click the terms of service box and accept the terms. I don't know what the terms are. I don't know what you're going to do with my data. I didn't even know you're collecting data about me, maybe. But the idea that I can attach I can either choose not to have my personal data collected, and if I do, I can choose to be compensated for that. But it will take, so I think, retraining ourselves to learn how to operate in that system.
Well, that's certainly an interesting idea, and it would be very interesting to kind of watch it all develop, because I think that's a part of what we're talking about when it comes to blockchain technology. I won't call it being the integral part of blockchain, but I'll call it and maybe a result of this change in how we do things because of blockchain technologies and its use. So with all this innovation that's going on, how do you see LTR playing a part of it?
Yeah, so the reason we decided to make this video and talk about this was to introduce the idea of what we hope to be able to do as a digital agency. Pat mentioned it might be strange for a digital agency to be talking about blockchain. Well, the reason we're talking about blockchain is because blockchain technology and some of the projects that are being built on the blockchain are now encroaching into the digital marketing and digital media space. So now it's become very, very relevant to us as agency operators, and then maybe to you as marketing executives or maybe other agency owners. But we're at that learning phase, and for the past several months, you know, I've been following the projects that are getting traction. There's a lot of projects out there, but not all of them are. One I was talking to yesterday, they just went into beta, their beta phase, and there's some that have working products out there. There's some projects that maybe never will see the light of day. It's a concept and they'll never be able to pull it off. But the projects that are actually putting together working products, they're going into beta, they look like they could be a reality, those are the ones that I've been communicating with, because I want to start communication with them and I want to understand who's behind the projects and what have you. But it's gotten to the point now where we want to start introducing some of these projects to people that follow us on social media or read our blogs, or if you're watching this video, is to sit down with some of these projects. I've done a few videos with them already, but I want to be able to sit down with them and do video-based interviews, allowing them to present their project and their approach to solving the problems in AdTech and marketing tech. How are they approaching it, and what's the technology behind their projects? And then maybe in a situation too, to allow people that if they join us live on the videos, they can ask questions. So we plan on starting to do a video series with these projects. I got 3 lined up already. Good. That we'll be doing. One probably next week is the first one. So yeah.
LTR is going to be creating a fair amount of content around this, hopefully explaining concepts, keeping people up to date on the different projects that are in the marketplace, talking to thought leaders in this area. Where are people going to find this content? Or is it all going to be videos? Is it going to be written? Is it what's?
Yeah, so I think video is probably the most engaging. It's going to allow the most natural. You know, to write a really long blog post about how does, say, a project like Brave Browser or Kind Ads or something like that, how does it work? I think video is going to be more consumable, and again, hopefully, if people join us live for them, to be able to ask questions and have somebody actually from the project to be able to answer that question. So it's primarily going to be video content.
Okay.
It's a video interview series. And then, we'll be sharing other content from around the blockchain world. We're going to stay with marketing and advertising technology. There's just too much to talk about in the blockchain outside of that. We want to keep it focused. Hopefully, we can create something that's going to be a resource for marketing executives, CMOs, and other agency owners out there to know that they can go to a place to learn about some of these projects. So find them on our LinkedIn and such.
Yeah, so you're going to be hearing a lot from us, from LTR Digital Group, around blockchain technology. I think one of the biggest challenges is to be able to communicate some of this information, or a majority of this information, in two different ways, because we don't know who's going to view this video, right? So some people are going to be more advanced in their knowledge around this, and there's others that are going to just need somewhat of a layman's version of it so that they can kind of conceptually get a handle on it. Oftentimes, related to, with a lot of times with digital marketing to our clients, it's like, oftentimes you don't need to know how the watch works.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to know that it's telling you the right time. So when it comes to blockchain, I can see it very much the same way. Conceptually, it's a bit of a challenge to understand how blockchain works. But if you understand the applications around blockchain and what it's going to allow businesses to do with it, and in particular in our world between marketing, what it's going to mean to advertising agencies and eventually the end users around marketing, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of clarify some of those things as we go along here. So
absolutely, it'd be fun to introduce everybody to some of these projects, and the next few years, 2018 and beyond, I think is going to be a very interesting time in digital media, digital marketing, AdTech, and we're just now scratching the surface of the technology. And hopefully at the end of it, we can come up with solutions that are going to make it a more transparent environment. Some of the numbers that came out, depending on the study, is that 60 cents out of every ad dollar goes to middlemen.
That's not good.
Well, and it's not good, and it's not sustainable. And a lot of times brands, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and 60% of that going to middlemen, and middlemen is where a lot of the, I don't want to say fraud, but the wasted dollars are happening. Right?
I'm not going to, I wouldn't shy away from the idea that there's an incentive to pad numbers. If your business depends on that, we want to believe that people are honest out there, but we also know that there's a lot of dishonesty that goes out there too. So yeah, some of the estimates is that it can be up to 60 cents out of every dollar gets, taken by middlemen, whether it's DSPs, demand side platforms, supply side platforms, data resellers, all these types of things. And that's just not, that's just not an equitable advertising ecosystem. But if advertisers can begin going directly to publishers, compensate publishers for quality content, create an environment where publishers are able to monetize their content more, mm-hmm. encouraging them to write better content, not just more content, better content, we start building that better internet.
So with that, let's probably wrap this up, I
Absolutely.
guess. So as we mentioned, we're gonna have content posted on our website in addition to all the social areas that LTR participates in. So feel free to reach out to us at any time if you have any questions or clarifications. We're happy to respond to it via the content that we're going to create that hopefully is valuable content that fits in with what Dale just was referencing. So with that, again, Pat Devine and Dale Brosey, thanks for stopping in, and we'll see you down the road. Take care.
Take care, everybody.